How do you teach a child architecture? The answer is, first, through utopia, the capacity to imagine something good that does not exist and then create it. This requires the techniques of art. Second, through poetry, the capacity to modify the order of the grammar handed down to you to develop a deeper form of communication. All the arts are forms of communication and have their own grammars. Third, through nature, the capacity to create a personal narrative within the collective narrative that brings it to life. The child grows like a tree in a welcoming 1,000-year-old wood. We can call it cultural atmosphere. Architecture, like the other arts, means concrete things. A building, a city, a painting, a sculpture, a novel, a performance. For example, when I look at a Neolithic sculpture, a form of communication comes into being between me and its creator. A form of communication that changes and improves me. For this reason, learning art means learning how to make concrete things. The teacher of architecture will teach children artistic techniques, methods, and processes, allowing them to create what they visualize in their minds, and encouraging them to improve on this. In other words, this involves constructing a wall, a utopia, using the control of language, poetry, and starting from the personal story inside the collective story, the nature. The process of artistic creation is a process of education. Educational projects must respond to real needs. First and foremost, they have to identify a problem and then design an initiative to resolve it. A project that aims to teach the language of architecture as part of the timetable in a Spanish middle school is not the same as an extracurricular one in a Colombian museum or one in an art school for Finnish children. Globally, there are dozens of projects that combine the words childhood, architecture, and education and resolve specific problems. These projects can be classified in different ways. Some projects teach architecture as a language. The children learn architecture in the same way that they learn dance, music, painting, and so on. At the same time, the arts are seen as languages allowing us to investigate and construct the world we live in. Then there are participatory processes, social and political, or involving the design of spaces and objects, in which children and young adults are the decision makers. The infrastructure of education is important in children's life because they will spend many years within it. The educational space must be tailored to the teaching project, bringing it to life. There are materials for teaching and play based on design and architecture, going back to Froebel in the 19th century and Lionel Feininger, Ladislav Sudnar, Joaquín Torres García, Bruno Munari, and many others in 20th. There are also continuing professional development schemes for preschool, primary, and secondary teachers to help their understanding of school buildings and architecture in general. This is supported by regeneration of appropriation of the public space, such as the street children take to get to school, guided walks to introduce them to the surrounding heritage, playgrounds, improvements to the urban environment for children of preschool age and for those who look after them, hospital education, and so on. There is research on the childhood brain, the development of a spatial perception, the relationship between the body and the world that surrounds it, the sense of direction and the construction of a mental map in which the child situates him or herself. In order to make progress for the common good, there needs to be vision, a will, and courage. The vision to intuit better education for children, the will to act on this vision, and the courage to build it. Any change to the established norms provokes a contrary reaction that wants to prevent it. That's why courage is so important. Above all, our work with childhood, architecture and education consists of constructing the cultural atmosphere that foments a positive and transformative attitude in the world. Boys and girls who play at discovering reality, at inventing reality through the representation of their wishes. From what I have seen when working with children in different countries, the genes we are born with have few implications for our present or future happiness, success, satisfaction, or peace of mind. It is the environment, social, cultural, and economic environment in which we grow up that forms us. Human constructs form children and give them towards one destiny rather than another. Part of my work consists in creating a productive, a good environment for the full development of childhood. The arts are languages which allow us to feel our way through our existence, to give it the right shape so everyone can live in it, to understand ourselves as a species. And architecture is the ideal language to create the atmosphere in which we will grow up. We teach art so that children develop their own thoughts, criteria, and decisions throughout their lives. We imbue them with the spirit of exploration, research, adventure, and risk, so that they can feel and measure the sensitive world without fear, project their sensations through the techniques and methods and artistic disciplines, communicating with the other, building the world. The learning of the arts is not for children to believe or not in a political system, religion's faith, or certain aesthetic. It is not to impress upon them that beauty is this or that given form. Playing with Schiller's terminology, I say that the true learning occurs in the fair collision between the sensible impulse, its natural, intuitive, wild, amorphous world, and the formal impulse, world of reason, law, morality, causing or provoking the game impulse, the space-time of creation of the living form. The game impulse is the ideal state of the child and artist who plays, learns, and creates. He or she is in the game. Outside the game, she or he is not. Similarly, the ideal state is one where its citizens reinvent every day the social pact, social contract, that unifies and organizes them without violent conflict through the game of politics. The questioning of the state as the only form of the state. The state is in the game. Outside the game, it is not. The participatory educational project. 4 steps. Every educational project responds to specific and local needs. First, you will study those needs and diagnose them. Second, you will set an objective based on the diagnosed need. In the third step, you will design the participation of people and organizations in your project. Finally, the fourth step is the realization of the project that provokes the transformation of materials, spaces, and people involved in. First step, need. What real need of children does our participatory project solve? Childhood, in general, has physical, ethical, and aesthetic needs. Each childhood has specific needs depending on the local and family context where they live. Food, health, emotional, learning, schooling, inclusion, abuse. Learning arts helps to overcome some of these needs. That is why the students of the module have to diagnose which children's and youth needs are the priority in your project. Second step, goal. What is the pedagogical objective of your participatory project? The answer will be the north of your action. Why do you want them to learn art? Let's decide if you focus on learning to make a living with the arts, perhaps because there is a strong tradition in an art or craft with a commercial outlet, or the goal is to reinforce basic learning such as reading, writing, diction, argumentation, or the goal is to unify the community and resolve conflicts through listening and collaboration, or the goal is to include physical or psychical diversity, promoting more resilient growth, etc. This is how artists work, imagining utopias that do not exist and carrying them out with artistic techniques. This is how teachers work, imagining their students with their full potential unfolded, building their lives within a collective narrative of peace, equality, and justice. Our job is to transmit to children the strength of utopia and teach them the means to build it. It is a unique opportunity for students to assume their civic responsibilities, understanding that the world is and will be as they are able to imagine and build it. Now, third step, participation. Participation is like a synapses. People are like neurons. Thought arises from interaction. We want a good quality of participation of children and youth. Learning art is a voluntary, conscious, positive, optimistic act. It is an emotional and intellectual response to the pressure that the present time exerts on us. It is a construction of the present always projected to a tomorrow. Children and youth participate in the creation learning of art, in defining the content of the project, in their daily work through respect and trust in peers, teachers, and common project. Our project is born within the cultural educational ecosystem that is in the network of the neighborhood and the city that make up kindergartens, schools, vocational training centers, university, cultural association, artists, libraries, museums, bookstores, educational administrations, etc. Fourth step, transformation. What real transformation do you want in the children and youth of your participatory project? Children have to feel that every second lived during the project is worthwhile because they learn, because they share experiences with their friends, because they understand what they do for their community. The participatory project provokes a transformation in the little ones like the sun provokes a transformation in the plants. At the same time, childhood causes a transformation in their community through the artistic project they carry out. Our project transforms the daily life of its children and families, improves neighborhood coexistence, makes the public spaces that surround it safer, weaves complicity with entities of the cultural educational ecosystem. In addition, it structures a long-term collaboration with several local administrations. As John Hawkes says, sustainability needs 4 pillars: economic, social, ecological, and cultural. We want a transformation supported by these 4 pillars.